recruiting is pretty quiet right now. So understand that, Nelson Express. So we're going to hit up Jason with your question. But again, keep in mind the recruiting's a bit quiet as we stand right now. But Nelson's asking, Jason, if you had to put money on it, who would you say we can expect to commit after the spring game?
Yeah, so Mark, it's quiet. It's very quiet in terms of commitments. So there's a lot of movement going on behind the scenes, and I think we can talk about this a little bit more next week when it's closer to the spring game, just solidifying the number of visits. But this is going to be a monumental, gigantic recruiting weekend for Oklahoma on the 23rd. They've got tons of kids that are already coming in. I think the guy that I would say, Nelson, right now that they're really hot on, that looks like he could be close to committing is Cayden Green. He's an offensive lineman that Oklahoma has been involved with and talking to. So I think that's the guy that immediately comes to mind who could be there. He's obviously a 2023 guy as well. So he's a guy that I think would be, as it stands right now, would be the guy that I would think that is probably the biggest chance to commit closer.
Clayton Smith didn't see the field too much last year, but my goodness, a 2021 top 50 player in the nation, top 10 player in the state of Texas, the second-rated edge rusher, which always has most football fans' ears kind of perk up because we know how important it is to get to the quarterback. And if you're an elite edge rusher, there aren't too many of those guys around, but Clayton Smith was given that kind of evaluation coming out of high school. Hit the field for 3 games and 3 tackles this past season. I got to think most of that might have been on special teams. I don't know for sure. Yeah. But Trafone is thinking, no, that's Trap House, my bad, that Clayton Smith could possibly break out.
It's interesting, Mark. I mean, I think when you saw Clayton Smith come in last year, I think he was a safe bet for most people of a kid that could get on the floor or could get on the field very, very quickly. And it never really materialized, the way a lot of us thought that it might. He was a little bit raw. And I think really, again, kind of the same thing coming in this spring. There was a lot of thoughts that, he could be a guy that at that edge position that could challenge and could get on the field. And some of the things that I'm hearing, he's still trying to he's a little bit undersized for what what they're looking for in that position. They've got a lot of guys that are really big. They've got the transfer from Hawaii is about 6'4", 260. And that's the kind of build I think that a lot of those guys are looking at. And then you've got Marcus Stripling, who's a little bit more undersized, but I think from all the things that I've heard, he's not quite there along with that group just yet. In terms of making the move, he's probably a little bit behind Marcus Stripling in a depth chart perspective. So I think, again, Mark continues to be a really big spring for him. His ability to kind of get on the field and what that looks like, specifically from a spring game perspective on, really how important that is. I mean, I know that, sometimes spring games can be a little bit, misleading. I know, just kind of, I hadn't really got a chance to watch a ton, but I know Texas A&M and Clemson were a little bit less than impressive, I think, from this past weekend, just kind of, looking at some highlights and looking at some of the stats. So, but no, again, for him, it's really, really big for him to, kind of start making that splash and making that next step. And hopefully this summer conditioning will get his body in a position where he, will be able to compete and give Oklahoma some added depth to that rush-in perspective.